Hey guys, this is Alex from WilkinsonAudio.com. We're back working on the Endless Decline mix, the song made by Sam Whitaker. And I just wanted to, I know last time I said like it's hard to hear whistling frequencies and stuff in the overheads with these headphones. And I think it's important to know some information about what you're monitoring with. So if you're monitoring with headphones, headphone.com is a great site to kind of get an idea of of where some shortcomings in your headphones might be. 702s are pretty great in my opinion for accurately reproducing a lot of the spectrum, but they do have some issues with the high end, and from my experience, almost all headphones, it becomes very difficult to hear the energy in the low end, no matter how flat it is. It's just like you can't really feel the bass or the low end, so it's really hard to mix it sometimes. But yeah, like we can see here at about 9,000 hertz, like our response drops off pretty drastically, and by the time you're about 11,000 11,000 hertz, you pretty much don't have any information. So for overheads and for dialing in air bands and stuff like that, like trying to dial in air in your overheads, make sure that you're referencing it with another system or something like that, because you really won't be able to do it with these headphones. And that's just something I wanted to make you aware of. Is it helps to be aware of what the shortcomings are on your monitoring system, so that you don't accidentally wreck a mix by making it sound good, by making it sound totally balanced in one system, and then it's wrong on all the others. So something to be aware of. So let's check out the drum mix we did with the bass guitar that's been provided here. To me, that already sounds pretty good. That's actually pretty easy to work with. This is actually a MIDI bass instrument, I think, called Alchemist Grind. I made the Zombase ones, which are similar to this. This is another kind of version of that kind of software, where it's a bass guitar that it's a virtual instrument that plays bass guitar for you for metalcore kind of stuff, or metal recordings. We're going to split this up into two different tracks. We're going to split the high end of the bass from the low end of the bass. We have the MIDI as well. We could do a MIDI sub low track. I'll demonstrate something that I realized. I was looking at these tracks earlier and I saw something here that I should make you aware of. If hang on, let me just import this MIDI here. You can do MIDI and use a synth on it to do the low end for your bass guitar. So you have your low end, which is like your super low end, to keep it really balanced. If you have a really low tuning, sometimes it's hard to get the bass guitar to actually reproduce those low frequencies evenly. So a lot of people will do this if they have a bass, a MIDI of the bass, what the bass plays. They'll make it a synthesizer, and they'll just do a sine wave, and then they'll use the sine wave for the low end of the bass. Obviously, you have to EQ that and stuff like that. But one thing I noticed with this track is the tuning is so low. It's I think it's G sharp, like drop G sharp, and the bass guitar hits. What's this note? I think it says somewhere what note this is. I think it's just, yeah, there we go. G sharp 0. It says up here. G sharp 0. And that, I'm pretty sure the fundamental of G sharp 0 is like 26 hertz or something like that. Like, it's something that most speaker systems won't be able to reproduce. So listen to how uneven it sounds. So if you're going to do a MIDI bass for this, you're going to need something that makes these notes sound a lot more even. And the way you would do that is you'd have to find a synthesizer or something that has harmonic content in it. Because when we listen to bass instruments and stuff, and the reason why you can hear a bass guitar on a phone, even though it can't reproduce the fundamental frequencies, is because it can reproduce the harmonics. And then if you can hear the harmonics, your brain will reproduce the fundamental frequency and reconstruct it for you. With this, you would have to find something that has some harmonics in it, because people's speakers won't be able to play this this note here, G0. And even if I like, I can hear on my headphones here, there's a slight rumble, but you might not even be able to hear that on your speakers. So something to be aware of. So you might want to use like a massive synth or something like that, and then try and find something that really keeps the stuff even before you're EQing it and stuff, if you're going to go that route for your sub bass. We're not going to do that today because, I don't know, this sounds pretty cool as is, and it already sounds good. And so I'm just going to split this stuff here into 2 tracks. I guess there's a few ways we can do that. We'll just route it out, I guess. This will be probably the easiest way to do it. And we'll change our sends that we sent to these 2 tracks. We'll call this one low, bass low. And then bass grit. And we'll change these sends to pre-fader, because we don't want this one to play. We just want it to send to these tracks. So we turn the volume down on the track with the main signal, and then we route it out and tell it to send before the fader. So it's sending at the regular volume level, but it just won't play back. And same with this one, we had to set them both to pre-fader. And then we should have 2 copies of that track. Oops, sorry, we can't mute it. And they're exactly the same, and you can tell that because if you invert it, it doesn't play anymore. So we're sending the exact same thing to both these tracks. And we'll process them from here. So let's just start with the low track here. We'll mute the high-end track. And sometimes it's a good idea to mix your bass around your kick drum. And I will show you a way using free stuff to kind of figure out how to do that. I would normally just do this by ear, and it's not, yeah. But we can do it like this too. This will be cool. Hang on. Just ignore this setup. It'll make like no sense at all. I kind of know what I'm doing here, but you're gonna be like, what is this guy doing? Just ignore it. It's not really important. Okay, so if we use this, we can look at the spectrum of the kick drum and the bass at the same time. And this is a Schwaz Shope, and it's free as well. No, it's not. It's not free, but there's a free demo of it. It's actually not free. I just remembered. But if we spend a little while, we zoom in on just the low end here, and we adjust this stuff. Oh, hang on. This kind of takes a little bit to set this up. We can already see that the reason why we can hear the bass and the kick pretty well at the same time is because there's not that much interference. Our kick is hitting somewhere between about, I'd probably say it's hitting at about 50 to 60 hertz-ish. And so if we wanted to make sure you could hear the fundamental of the kick, we could take our bass track. And I'm just going to undo all this stuff that I did here because we don't really need any of this stuff anymore here. Okay. Okay. Oops, I think I got rid of one too many tracks. Hang on. Just redo the send here. Okay. So it was around 50 to 60 hertz is where we saw the kick was. So we'll find if we boost 50 to 60 hertz, so we'll say 55, it'll start masking the fundamental of the kick. And I'll also solo the kick drum so we can actually hear that. So you can hear it's getting kind of, you can still hear the kick because of the high end of it, but the low end of it's becoming masked by the bass guitar. So we'll just take a dB out of that. That's pretty much all you need to do. Actually, in this case, we probably actually don't, like, you normally might need to do that. In this case, I think it actually sounds better without that, because I think the natural EQ of the bass already kind of avoids that frequency. So we'll just leave that untouched there. Otherwise, we'll take our bass low track and we'll low pass it. We'll just kind of dial out a bit of mud here. And then we'll compress it to taste. And you can either, you can monitor with the kick. You can, try it with different. It's nice to have sometimes the kick muted and unmuted too, because they're very. The kick and bass guitar are in very similar frequency ranges, so it's nice to see how they interact and make sure they are interacting okay, because they have to mesh together and almost sound like one instrument. Otherwise, the mix is not going to work together. It's going to fight and it's going to sound kind of weird. Okay, that sounds cool to me. All right, cool. So also, you can definitely overmix things. Like if I keep going back and I keep listening for more mud and dialing things out, I can, you can always clean things up a little bit more, but eventually your sound becomes thin. So be careful to, take breaks and make sure you're not overmixing stuff. You'll know when you're doing it. Like everything will start to sound, your ears will become fatigued, and like you won't really know what sounds good or bad, and then you'll just keep EQing things like forever, and then eventually the mix is really bad. It's kind of a weird phenomenon. Yeah, you'll definitely know what I'm talking about if you mix a few things. All right, so this is our high-end track, our bass grit track here, and I've just high-passed it. I'm going to use this free Sans amp simulator, and we're just going to put it before our EQ, and we're going to make this sound, we're basically going to make this whole track sound awesome. And that sounds cool to me. So we'll take our low end. And so we're mixing our bass low and bass grit tracks together. We're just trying to find a balance here. And then we're gonna take our EQ and distortion boxes and stuff like that. Any type of distortion generally acts as a compressor. Like it limits the signal severely. And so you won't typically need as much compression on stuff like guitar amps and stuff like that, because they come out, the end resulting signal is very compressed and brickish looking, and like it's just like the nature of distortion. Stuff that's distorted typically won't really need that much compression. So this, we really don't need a compressor on it because it's already so compressed from the Sans amp. And we're just gonna low pass here and make sure that it's not too too aggressive or anything like that. Because like you could keep these frequencies if you want, but they'll probably eat up a lot of space. They're not probably that important to the bass being heard. But you do it all to taste and stuff like that. Typical for a grit track is about your high pass at 1K and your low pass at about 3K. Would be pretty typical for a grit track, a good starting point for EQing that if you're doing something like this. And then we're going to move this around till it kind of meshes with the low bass track. Okay, hang on. I think the low track needs, I think its low pass needs to go down. And that sounds kind of cool, so we'll keep that for now. And then we're going to adjust them independently, low and high, and get it to sit kind of where we want it to. And let's just reference to our Whitechapel song again, see if our bass levels are anywhere near where they should be. And you find if you're working on a bass instrument like this, your perception becomes very skewed if you solo it for a long period of time. And I definitely have ear fatigue right now because to me, our stuff doesn't sound too bassy. But it's definitely getting on the verge of... but like to me, Whitechapel sounds thin, and I know it's not. So. Our kick's definitely a lot louder than theirs, so I'll turn that down a bit. So anyways, I hope that's somewhere near balanced. I'll probably have to take a break and then come back to it and reference it again and just do the levels again to kind of make sure that we're in the ballpark of where we should be before moving forward and mixing the guitars here. So I'll take a break and I'll meet you back here and we'll do the guitar video and go from there. All right, cool. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or anything, just let me know. If anybody has these songs they want me to mix or any tracks like that, they can get in contact with me and I'll see if I can do this type of video series thing on some tracks that people send in. Because again, this is kind of a best case scenario. These tracks are phenomenally this is phenomenally well tracked project, so mixing is not the most difficult thing. So if someone has like something they've recorded in the bedroom or something like that, that would probably be pretty cool to mix because that would probably be the most educational.